The thing that makes the difference between us being a sharer of digital resources and being a teacher is largely the fact that we are still going to be assessing pupils. In other words, we're going to check that they are following a program and that they're making progress. That said, it's not a time to turn into a dragon teacher. Be a bit flexible with deadlines. Not too flexible. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to get the work in. Make sure you design your assessments not to care whether they've got their book open or closed. Keep the assessments simple. Although a project can remain as complicated as it was before, it's not essential that everybody is doing their work at exactly the same time. Sometimes a second chance is not a bad thing if we're trying to encourage thinking and growth mindset. If you do have individual problems, you can deal with them specifically rather than making rules for the whole group in terms of expectations. At the end of the day, whatever we take in at this stage, which are not done under actual exam conditions or rather controlled conditions, we can't make them count too much in the end. The key to assessing over this period is to keep a rigorous class list. In other words, always have that class list next to you. Check who has handed in, who hasn't handed in, who has engaged with you, who have you had an appointment with, who has submitted a piece of work, and then, of course, what are the marks. At the end of the day, we are going to hold the pupils accountable and we are going to need to be able to follow up. So, keeping it simple for little assessments, there are two rubrics I'm going to recommend. One is the single-point rubric and the other is the 5-point scale. I'm going to start at the 5-point scale. Very, very simple, really. What you're going to do is you're going to say, it was 1 terrible or 5 amazing and 3 acceptable and 2 somewhere between terrible and acceptable, and 4 somewhere between acceptable and amazing. So literally a simple little 5-point scale on a whole lot of work that can be submitted. The single-point rubric is a useful tool as well. What you do is you make your criteria nice and simple for the pupils, and you say, is all the food correct temperature, adequately seasoned and cooked? In other words, have they done very well in exceeding the standards? Make a little comment. Or where do they need to work on in terms of these criteria? In order to use this kind of a rubric, you do need to be clear about what criteria are you looking for, and then see, have they acceptably just matched that? Have they done some things that are better? Or have they done some things that need attention with regard to the criteria that you set out at the beginning? Remember, you can't go changing criteria. That's basic assessment theory in any way. As I said to you in the last video, when you've got Google Drive, you can look at a place called Shared with Me. What the pupils would have done on their side is on their own drive. So they would be on my drive. They would right-click. They would say that they wanted to share this file, and then they would email it to your email address. No, they wouldn't email it to your email address, they would share it with your email address. So they put your email address in, and then it's going to pop up in your Shared with Me, and then you will see that you've got the project for every single child. I highly recommend when you do this that you think about telling the children exactly how you would like them to name their files. They're still not very obedient, but at least I did make it clear that I wanted their names in every single file. So you've got the project's name and who did the project. The project, this is just the name. Some of them just put their names, and some of them did put in that they had the actual project. So then you get big files that come your way, and you're able to open them easily from Shared with Me. The next thing that you can do is on a small little file, maybe just one picture, maybe an essay written in Word or an Excel spreadsheet, the pupils can actually just email you their answers, and then you would have a whole list of who had sent you things, and you would be able to mark it that way and give feedback easily enough from email. But this is my favorite. It lands up that if you do a Google form, you're in a position to set up a quiz for kids. So I'm going to speak a little bit in a bit more detail about that. The first thing one does is one goes to one's drive, you click on New, which was underneath this block, so you click on New, this comes up, you've got no choice to do a Google form, so you click on More, and then you'll find Google Forms. Once you've opened a Google form, let's see what happens. These top little buttons over here, this palette makes you be able to change it from green to whatever color you like, and you can put some pictures at the top. You'll notice in the quizzes that I've been setting up that I've kept a cute little purple and blue theme going. This one over here is a preview, so once you've finished, you can actually check the quiz yourself and see what it looks like from the other side. This is your settings button, and I'll talk about that in a bit more detail. Send allows you to share with everybody else, and 3 little dots, you can make a copy of the quiz. That's probably the thing that you would use the most. Otherwise, these 3 little dots don't give you that many options. Then if we're looking at the questions, you use this little plus sign to add a question. I'm going to focus on this settings button quickly. You're going to go into General. The default will be Restrict to PEP schools. Please unclick that. It's really, really important. I also don't limit them to one response. Once you've got people's email addresses, you don't have to collect them every time. And then I usually never click those at all. You can then go into Presentation. And over there, I love the option of shuffling the question order. A progress bar is cute, and then it's quite nice to give them a little message when they get their quiz back. And then very important, if you're making it a quiz, you have to click on the Quizzes tab, and then you'll have to turn this button on. That is the Quizzes tab. It's important that you collect the kids' names and surnames. My recommendation is that you make it 3 questions. First, you put their name, their first name. What is your surname? These are short answer texts. You also have to obviously give the quiz a name itself and save it over there. You don't have to save it, you just have to put it there, and then Google will automatically save it. And then I always use multiple choice to choose which class you're in, because otherwise people can write all sorts of funny things with that. Right, then you're going to start a new section over there by clicking on that little button with the that looks like a big equal sign. So that was to add a section. And then when you're adding questions, when you've clicked on this top little bit, it's behind this thing now, but it's either says short question or multiple choice. My favorite is multiple choice, but you can put any sort of a question in, and then you set that up, and you then put in all of your data. If you want to add a picture, you just have to hover around over here, and you can add a picture to the question. If you want to add a picture to each of your answers or make the answers a picture, you just go to the right-hand side and you add a picture over there. If you click on 3 dots that are in the bottom right-hand corner here, but underneath this block, you will see that it allows you to shuffle the option order. There are some other things to do, but they are, shall we say, advanced, and you don't need them to just get a quiz going out. I've just noticed the required button. For the actual questions, you probably don't want to click required. And if a child doesn't know the answer, they can leave it out. But for the name and for the surname and for the class, you want to just click that button across to say that they have to answer that question. Otherwise, they can't go on. Here, you can delete a question if you think you've done it wrong and you don't want it there anymore. And this allows you to copy a question so that you can make another one. Once you've made something a quiz, at the bottom left here, it will say answer key. When you click on that, you can click on what is the correct answer, and you can give it a point value. So here, I'd go into the answer key. I've clicked on the right answer, and I have got 1 point that I've made it for. You can make it worth more points if you wanted to. Then you go back out of the answer key and you're back at your questions. And then if you go over here to these 3 dots at the top, you can always make a copy of that quiz. And it works as quite a nice template that you can just change the questions if you wanted to along the way. Again, these are more sophisticated things that you don't need to know how to do. Don't use this get pre-filled link. That's for something completely different. If you want to share the link with everybody, go to the send button, not to the get pre-filled link. So I click on send when I'm ready, my quiz is finished. You can either email this quiz to every single person, which is a bit of a pain, or you go to this little chain over here. It's like a link of a chain, and you're going to grab the link. Immediately a link will come up. It will be long. I always click here, shorten URL. The shorter they are, the less likely things are to go wrong, in my opinion. And then you're going to copy it, and you can then paste it into Teacher.io or in your lesson over there for them to do. Or you could email it to them, but I would use Teacher.io. Copy and then paste. Once everyone's done the quiz, you'll have all the responses. You'll have a running total of how many responses you've got in. So at the top of the page of a form, there's always questions and responses. And then over there, it gives you some graphs of the data you've collected. If you click over here, you can actually find the individual response of every single child who has submitted. You're then able to get some graphs of each question and see who's answered what for each of the different questions. And then, if you want to get a spreadsheet, you go up to this little green button over here, and every detail will be revealed on a spreadsheet. When the spreadsheet comes up, it comes up with a timestamp, so you're able to see exactly when each pupil submitted. If they submitted more than once, you can see which is their first and which is their second, perhaps third submission. You get a mark for every single pupil. I've put a block over the pupils' names for their privacy. And you get their class, and then you get every single detail. So if you want to check a specific child, you can actually see exactly where they're going wrong for each and every single question. The problem is that these marks are now, you can't get an average because they're 5 out of 8 and 6 out of 8, so it doesn't work out nicely. Let's try and fix that. So in fixing that, you're going to firstly highlight 2 columns, then you right click, and then you insert 2 columns to the left. I've done 3, but 2 will be enough. Once you've got that, you've now got space. You go to data, you highlight the column you first highlight the column, then you go to data, and then in the data list, you'll get split text to columns, and you'll then be able to split it out over those columns. What you then find is that you've got just the mark alone. You've got the divide sign, you've got the 8, and you can actually delete these 3 columns over here, and you've got a mark, and you can get the marks into your mark book.